So in this how-to, I'm going to show you how to control where you spawn after a crash. I was flying the first leg of our Middle Earth New Zealand series. I hadn't flown it since World Update, I think it's 12 with the New Zealand update. And Cape Brett Lighthouse is on the flight plan. But there's also this hole in the rock, which last time I flew it was before the World Update, and it was basically just rendered as a bright spot on the rock. But based on the imagery, it might just be big enough for the X-Cub. So they've now added hole in the rock as one of the points of interest in World Map. So I'm assuming the hole is actually there now. I'm going to try and fly through it, and there's a fairly high probability that I'm going to crash. After I do that, I'll show you how you can control where you spawn after a crash. Well, so there's our hole in the rock. It's definitely a hole in the rock. Should be pretty easy to crash into. Oh, okay, well, so it is wide enough for an X-Cub, but oh no, oh my gosh. So if you crash, you get your restart option. Personally, I've had unpredictable results. So restart sometimes will spawn you in flight, partially where you were, I guess. But in most cases, restart your flight plan, which in this case would be all the way back at Kaitaia Airport. So first thing you want to do is drop a pin right where you crashed or thereabout and copy your coordinates. So you just highlight it. You can right click and copy or control C on your keyboard, and then you can cancel because you really don't need the push pin unless you want to save the push pin for some reason. So what we'll do is get out of cockpit map, go into our flight settings, and then here in our sim bars, we're going to paste in our latitude. Well, that's latitude and longitude. So I'm going to cut my longitude out of there, and I'm going to paste it where it belongs in the longitude. And I'm going to cut out my comma there. The space doesn't matter, but the comma will cause a problem. And then altitude of 252 feet. Normally would be awfully low. Let's put it at 500 though. And then I'm not on the ground. And now I'm in flight cruise. Okay, so I haven't changed anything about my departure arrival, but what I've done is I've reset where I want my aircraft to spawn, the altitude I want it to spawn at, and I don't want it on the ground. I want it flying, heading minus 240. Negative degrees are relative, going counterclockwise around the compass. I guess we want our heading to be, well, considering where I dropped my pin, I'm on the east side of the rock, and I probably don't want to put myself right on the approach to the hole in the rock. So let's just go straight north. Or let's be going, say, northwest a little bit. So we'll say 340. And you can adjust your pitch and your bank if you actually want to be mid-turn or something like that. Obviously this was easy because I'm at sea level. If you crash, say, trying to crest a mountain, you're going to want to add a couple thousand feet to your altitude based on the contour line. So again, we're at sea level, so it doesn't really matter. But if I crashed in the mountains, I would want to check my contour lines for the point I crashed at and make sure that I've set my altitude at least some point higher than that. So now I need to save this flight plan, but I don't want to save it over the top of my New Zealand Middle Earth leg 1 here. So let me just save it as a new file, and I'm just gonna, I keep a temp directory out here for junk, because I'm just gonna turn around and delete this flight plan when I'm done with it. So just to recap, let me point something else out here now. It set us back at Kaitaia Airport because we reloaded the flight plan. So notice my little aircraft is gone now. And if I turn GPS follow on, it's probably going to put me at the equator. Oh no, it's still holding. Since I didn't restart or go back to the main menu, it's holding the GPS position of my aircraft. Contrary to what I said at the beginning, I guess it's not important that you drop your pin right away when you crash. Just don't hit restart until you're done playing with the map. Just to point something else out, I don't know if I mentioned, obviously your aircraft is available on the flight plan main form as well, and you can turn it on and off from here. When you go into cockpit map, once your plane icon's on there, it's on there no matter where you scroll, whether you turn GPS follow on or off. So if flight plan is receiving a latitude and longitude position for an aircraft, it will display it in your cockpit map. Whereas on flight plan's main map, you can basically turn the aircraft on and off if you're in flight. And if I had wanted to set my approach, like instead of spawning where I crashed, I think I dropped my pin about here, which is pretty close to the crash, I could probably zoom way in. I could have dropped a pin way out here and used this coordinate and set myself at, you know, a heading of 280 and a altitude of maybe 200 or 100, and that should line me up for the rock. So you're welcome to try and adjust your start position to put yourself in the best position to make whatever obstacle you're trying to make. So what you'll want to do is, instead of hitting restart, restart's just going to reload the flight plan that you started with, which in our case is this same flight plan, but the original flight plan had our aircraft spawning at Cataia Airport, where we would have spawned on the apron of Cataia Airport on runway 12, facing down runway 12, ready to take off. Now our flight settings indicate that we're in flight cruise. We're not on the ground, so the sim is going to evaluate these coordinates, latitude and longitude. It's going to use this altitude and this heading, and again, you can do a pitch and a bank angle if you'd like in degrees. So you're going to have to go back to the main menu, go back into world map, space bar for more, space bar for load and save, load from this PC. We'll pick my junk directory, pick the flight plan I just saved. Notice it's still Cataia to Whangarei. Okay, and Flight Simulator, instead of spawning us at Cataia Airport, it spawned us at whatever it was I asked for, I think 350, 340 degrees. At the position that I dropped my pin, it's not quite at my crash position. I was sort of behind and above my crash position because I wanted to get away from the Google pin, since when you click on the pins, you get the actual address of the point of interest, by the way. But we're spawned in flight where we want to be, ready to take another crack at the hole in the rock. So I can turn my GPS follow on, ready to fly, and I'll be in autopilot since this aircraft has an autopilot, just holding my bank angle and heading. And then just turn off your autopilot, take control of the aircraft. Don't forget, when you spawn, it's going to start using your throttle from your joystick if you have one. Got a little bit of a tailwind here. It's making it a little tricky. Okay. So it turns out it's really not all that difficult because I'm no Chuck Yeager and I just did it twice. So that's doable, but it makes my example for how to control where you spawn after a crash. And since I didn't crash, we should be coming up on Cape Brett Lighthouse. That's our how-to for the day. If you enjoyed this, please like and subscribe.